Good evening and welcome to Community Forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell, and my co-host, Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris. How are you today? How's the week?
The week has been good.
It's still going. Well, we had a tropical wave over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we have an interesting evening. We have two guests coming. They'll be joining us after this. Chris, the week, we still have a number of issues here. Well, besides the inclement weather we had over the weekend, we had slides, and I know the farmers are concerned about that. But besides that, we had another suicide. We had the violence continues. Not very good.
Well, I mean, probably we should start with the weather first.
Yeah,
And then
the
we'll
weather.
get to the people. Yeah, we had some, I think the weather for me, I mean, we normally have rain, we normally have sunshine.
Yeah.
I think it's the extremes and the volume of water that fell in a short space of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to find out from the Met Office how many millimeters of rain came in that period that we had over the weekend last week. So that, and then we see in the heat wave worldwide.
Globally.
We're seeing what is happening in the US, in Europe, and even in our neck of the woods. I was looking at some stats this morning, and it shows that Grenada's record was 31 degrees Celsius for July. And the temperatures forecasted for the week is going to be 31 degrees thereabout or higher. So we're right on the threshold for ourselves of breaking the record. And it's something that needs to be concerned. We need to be concerned about, start talking to people about hydrating properly and staying out, using their umbrellas to shade and so on, and especially our young and elderly. So we need to pay some attention to that. And hopefully we could not get situations where I heard on CNN this morning that they were so drastic that they were injecting cold saline solution into the veins for people who come in with heat exhaustion and so on.
Heat stroke,
Heat stroke. So it is becoming critical, something that we need to look at. Mm-hmm. But before we go on, Byron, probably I could take the lead in expressing condolences to the family of Mr. Lester Andel, who passed away recently. And Lester was, as you know, a banker. Mm-hmm. And then I think he was at the airport authority for a while as the MD. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he have made his contribution and to this country.
Absolutely.
And it is always difficult when you see a gentleman of that caliber passes on. He was president of the Chamber of Commerce as well. So, to his family and his kids, I'd like to say condolences and God's grace.
I join you, Chris. I mean, the program joins in expressing those condolences to the family. Someone I knew pretty well professionally. What stood out for me was his humility, quite a gentleman and a professional, Sad, very, very sad.
Well, could I jump to monkeypox?
Yes. Is that the clinical name? Is that the
No, I doubt that's a clinical name, but it shows up as a kind of pox.
Pox, yeah.
The lesions on your skin and so on. And
yeah.
it is, the history and the context is that it was originated from the monkey. And
that's okay.
Over.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, we have 8 cases in Trinidad. We have our carnival in the next 2 weeks, and we will have an influx of visitors, including
we have
Trinidadians.
an open border.
And the border tends to be relatively porous. So I think the Prime Minister mentioned it in his discussion with the press this week, that they will try to tighten the borders and put more controls and look at...
Is there a test like the COVID test that you can do on spot, or it's a physical examination?
The CTO had indicated that you will generally see them having the lesions. Some may have the lesions, but if they're covered up, you won't see it. And of course, there's the issue of tiredness and fever. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they're going to do those kind of...
It's a virus, a viral infection?
It's a viral infection, I believe.
I believe.
Absolutely.
And COVID is still around also.
COVID is still around.
So we're talking about caution, care, particularly in the upcoming season.
Advising our people at least get to understand what the disease is, what it's about, and how you could contact it.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that so that if you see anything, you kind of protect yourself.
Yeah. Chris, there's a lot more to talk about. We have 2 guests joining us, as I said. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Yep.
Concerned about your general health and wellness?
Do you need to know your complete blood count, lipid profile, or HbA1c?
Maybe you need to get a renal, thyroid, or liver function test.
Interested in STI screening? for HIV, syphilis, herpes, chlamydia, or gonorrhea?
All of these tests, plus hundreds more, are available at Allied Laboratories.
Allied Laboratories welcomes you. You can find us here on Gladstone Road in Grenville, in the building next to Calico, on the second floor, adjacent to Dr. Isaac's office. Or you can find us here on Grand Anse Main Road, adjacent to South Winds, opposite the entrance of Excel Plaza. Contact our Grenville branch at 410-3488 or 419-1588 or send us an email at alliedlabgrenville@gmail.com.
You can contact our Grand Anse branch at 403-3488 or 404-3488 or send us an email at alliedlabstgeorge@gmail.com.
Fit for life and Allied Laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
Welcome back to Community Forum. With Chris, I will allow you to, of course, introduce our guests.
Yes, and I'll take pleasure in doing that. I have a beautiful lady sitting to my left. Her name is Mashida Phillip, Grenadian-born multi-hyphenate director. That's right? Hyphenated director, producer, curator, and founder of 12 Degrees North, 61 Degrees West Grenada Film Festival, 1261 Film Festival for short.
Yes.
Right. Right. Mashida has a Bachelor's of Science degree in Information Science from Fordham University and a Master of Arts degree in Film from the City University of New York, concentrating on documentary filmmaking. Her academic achievements have equipped her with a deep understanding of media and film. So we're going to be talking to Mashida this evening about the 1261 Fifth Film Festival. That's correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. So Mashida, let me start to talk by telling us and our viewers a little something about what is 1261 Degrees West Fifth or Film Festival, and how did you get to start that?
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to be here, actually. 1261, or 12 degrees north, 61 degrees west, we pay homage to the geographical location of Grenada. We wanted something that was uniquely tied here rather than the 473 and everything like that. No matter where you go, this is our coordinates. And that was actually inspired by a film I was doing here in Grenada at the time. So when we were looking for names, this was a nice play on it. I did a piece on human trafficking, and basically we were mapping the coordinates to show the urgency in that. So that's how the name was actually inspired by this. And we started the festival in 2019, and this year we are at year 5. You know, we went through the COVID pandemic, and it's a good moment. It's a big moment for us and our team, me and my team actually. And we have our theme this year, from small seeds to big dreams, 5 to 50. As we move towards 50 years of independence in Grenada, we're saying, what's next for the next 50 years for our people? So
5 to 50.
5 to 50.
Interesting. And what has the ride been in terms of people's reaction and acceptance of a Grenadian in the film industry? And I mean, human trafficking is a touchy subject for some. It's a ridiculous thing, but it's a very touchy something for some. How has the reaction been with the locals based on the topics? I suspect some of them will be social issues that you will highlight, and how has that been?
As a filmmaker, I am personally interested in social justice work. So my first film that I did here in Grenada touched on parental migration and the psychological impact it has on children left behind. this particular film afforded me to travel the world and sharing our narrative, our experiences as Grenadians, as Caribbeans, with the migrant story to the different spaces globally. And with the piece Searching for Crystal, because of the sensitivity of this particular film, we have not been airing that piece publicly in a lot of spaces. We use it more as an educational tool to let youths know how easy it is to be trafficked outside of your home, you know, and also we work with a lot of non-for-profit that deals with that. Again, it's about raising awareness. In regards to the film festival and using that hat now as the founder and managing director, we are seeing now a shift in the mindset. When we started, basically the industry here was either non-existent or emerging. There hasn't been a historical space for a lot of Grenadian locally identifying as filmmakers per se. The last film that I can think of was back in 2008-9, Blinded by Qualis. I always pay homage to that because that's one of the first feature films that I knew that was fully staffed and equipped with Grenadians, you know. So that is something that I feel was so great. And in the last 5 years, especially now with the new administration, putting a lot of emphasis on the creative sector, you're seeing a shift in mindset. So I think this is a really good moment to spread the word, and a lot more people are saying what we do as the creatives.
I'm glad you raised this point having to do with, because clearly the new administration, we saw a major conference recently held on the orange economy, you call it, yeah?
Yes.
I got it right, Chris.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Clearly, the creative sector, so to speak, you know. But I'm always interested, okay, and you've been into this 5 years, this is your 5th session.
Yes.
Let's talk about the money part of it, because this is about business, you
It
know.
is about business.
Tell me, explain to our audience how this work, the film sector, industry, so to speak, and in the Grenada context, Caribbean context, our context, where
Where
tell
do
me
you
about
get
the money.
funding?
Yeah, where's the funding come from? But where's the profits from it? The people that are involved in it, the livelihoods that's involved. Explain to me, to us, how this is realized.
One thing I always say with the film medium, that is completely unique from other creative sectors. Film basically encompasses all industries, each and every industry that you think of. So whether you're a carpenter, an electrician, a hairstylist, a makeup artist, an accountant, a lawyer, we still need the services. There's always room for that. So it's a trickle-down effect per se. It's not just a camera person or the writer. It's the whole gamut, right? When I started the festival, I started it as a passion project, and I quickly realized that it was a business. I didn't have any experiences. I just wanted to create a platform for my fellow Grenadians to get a taste of what I was exposed to in the US, so we can screen things, develop, and support each other in that way. And I remember I was edged on to say, yes, do it. And when I asked for content, I received none. So basically, we had to open it up globally. And that's how this festival was really birthed into taking its form. The business component of it, basically, we survive for the last 5 years, where I've personally invested my own money. My family has been supporting us. We have been receiving grants, and now we have some private investors who are also supporting us. So it takes the whole community to find the monies to support this. The profits come from different spaces. The film festival is an exhibition space. It's where you actually take the final product. You're saying in person, this is what we come together, we celebrate each other and the whole 9 yards. But there are different tiers. to do so. So you have to be very creative in how you are now scaling to receive the money. So we have to utilize online medium platforms. We have to do some things with the ticketing. We have to do things with merchandising. So we find different ways to do it. It's not a easy process as much people think that there's a lot of money.
Is this why we call it creative? I don't know. It's not.
You have to be creative on all sides.
It's, you know, a lot of us are not educated with the business component
Yeah.
of it. Like, so we're not a brick and mortar business. Basically, you have to assess different things. So when you're looking at event, unlike a music festival per se, you have the licensing fees that you would have to pay for every film that is screened in our festival. You have to pay for, if you're inviting any of the filmmakers or their crew, you have to probably give them something to come here to support that for cultural exchanges, right? And doing so. If you're doing workshops, you have to have money for that. So when you would love to do things for free, there is a huge cost that is attached to putting it on. So.
I've seen the aspects of the films that I've seen. Clearly, I see advocacy, awareness building, issues that concern the community.
Oh yeah.
And that's excellent, you know. It's educational, but it's of course awareness. That came out very strong, you know, whether it's on slavery or reparation or all of those issues. The question is, how is the community involved? And how does the community have access? Well, for two levels. One, in terms of the process, in terms of development of the film itself, but then access, viewing, you know, how available are the films to, as a festival, to the community?
So the festival is available and accessible to everyone from the, 2019 till now. One of our biggest passion basically is to bring the creative sector into the rural community.
Yeah.
So from 2019 till now, we have always showcased films in Grenville as well to do so. Again, because it is something that is not fully funded per se, and based on limited resources, there is only so much that our small team can do, because it's a team of volunteers from international that sometimes come in. We do have locals who are volunteering. We take interns who do a lot of work with us. So we are very much intricated. And on top of that, we have been offering workshop development from since 2019 till now. I'm very passionate about education. So for instance, this year, we reassessed everything based on all of the experiences that we had over the years, and we are focusing on 5 different pillars right now. So the pillars are film, it is entertainment, education or culture, as we would say, technology, which is a huge thing for us, right? So we are working with different business partners locally, like Caribbean Coding Academy, to do the VR installation this year. We want to bring in the robotics because AI is a big thing in the creative sector. In addition to that, we are having different social justice pieces that we are talking about, and I love to look at different groups here. So we have a children's program as well that is carded for that, because we've always had the children program.
So 12 North, 61 West, this is the 5th. You have, briefly, what's the timelines that local filmmakers have to enter that information, because that's important.
It is very important.
Yeah.
Last year, I must say, we had our first designated Grenada night, and that was a big thing for me. We had a red carpet event up at Deluxe Cinema, and it was nice. We were able to showcase 7 titles, and out of that, 2 films got international distribution.
Wow.
We brought in delegations from the US, and basically one of the films that got distributed were my film. It is now distributed in Africa for the next year, so I have they have non-exclusive rights to distribute my film for the next 12 months in Africa. And then there is a second film, My Mother Mary. She is a young, emerging Grenadian American filmmaker who came in here, and her film was distributed by one of the delegations that came to Grenada as well in the U.S. So the potential of doing so is wide and is vast, because my network is huge across the world that allows you to get your work being seen outside, except for just uploading things on YouTube. What we have, the process basically, we have something called an open call for submissions, and that has been ongoing right now. The regional and the international deadlines will be at the end of this month. But for Grenadians and people from Carriacou and Petite Martinique, we have extended it out to August 31st. Understanding what the type of content that is created here in Grenada, we're very lenient with it. So we accept music videos because there's a lot of directors that do a lot of amazing music videos. And what we want to do in shifting the mindset, there is power in numbers. So rather than you're just uploading your videos on YouTube, we're asking you to submit it so we can premiere it as a collective body and give credit to the people and the creative team behind it. Because until we start doing so, we are just not, people are not going to know who are the actual creatives doing things. So that's what the film festival provides. A unique space for us to celebrate our creators and giving you the flowers while you're alive, so people can now see, business communities can see that the talent that they're looking for is right here. Because quite often if a music video goes up, we don't know who the directors are, we don't know who are the stylists, we have no idea who the editors are, nothing in the back then, the credits are just there. Yeah. All we say is the artist in front, and then that's it, whoa, that bad boy, and that's it. So we are trying to shift the mindset in
How
there.
is the, from where you sit, what is the talent like in Grenada from where you sit?
Oh, raw, untapped. I mean,
Can you use
we
my
are
phone
very.
to do this?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You can use your phone to create
I don't
that.
get idea.
Whether you're doing drone photography, drone films, whether it's cell phone or mobile phone, we're very lenient with it. The only caveat we ask is basically telling a story. I believe it. I don't care what it is. If it's 60 seconds, if it's 3 minutes, at least it has to have a story, on telling it, so people can take away the positive narrative. Our festival basically is to kind of demystify the kind of negative stereotypes about Black people out there and about Caribbean people. We want to show them what our life, what are our contributions, our narratives, our experiences, both locally, regionally, and internationally. When you see our contributions as Caribbeans, you have to be proud about that, So that's kind of what it is. So people have until the ending of August to submit their work.
We have one more last question. I know you're running out of
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Rashida.
Oh, this is we can talk all night.
Yeah. And my thing is about, I get a sense that you are the director in charge.
You get the sense of that?
How has that been in your evolution with this film festival and 12 Degrees 61?
I must say, personally, I've grown a lot. I really have grown as a creative myself and as a business person, because allowing me to change different hats and interject, and I'm able to spot talent very easily. I just love the idea of molding and shaping others in that sense. So that's
So the orange economy is looking up from your perspective.
The orange economy has been something that has been lucrative. The attention that it is giving now within the Caribbean context is something that I think it's beautiful right now. I've traveled.
And very new.
Yes, but interestingly enough, I've traveled. So for instance, when you're looking at major markets like in Switzerland, Germany, and these spaces, and they are now directing their attention on the Caribbean and Latin America for new content, that tells you something, So it is up to us now to utilize the tools that we have and not expect, I must put that plug in because it gives me chills, not expect the government to be the one to facilitate everything. The same how I saw an opportunity and I invested in that opportunity, you have to have patience and allow things to grow. The government, in my opinion, is here to support you in the initiative, but in order for them to know what we have, you as a creative have to also shine and showcase that I want this just the same and I have the patience to do
Shaida,
it.
that's all the time we have. I really want to thank you very much on behalf of my colleague here for joining us on Community Forum. We do wish 12 degrees north, 61 west much success. I look forward to it. We look forward to it personally.
I want to be
Yeah.
invited
Viewing,
to the next.
in fact,
want to be invited to
I
the-
never knew about that red carpet session in St. Andrews.
I don't think so.
All of this is planned again for the 5th festival. Yes,
Yes, so
Great.
basically before we wrap up, the festival is taking place October 23rd through the 29th of this year. It's not where, it's a public event, so it's not
Okay.
where people have to be personally
Okay.
invited to
Right.
that. But our red carpet event will start on the 24th, that's the day before the holiday. And we're looking at the Grenada National Museum as our venue host this year. So we have some amazing things. So if people want to stay abreast of everything that we're doing, to submit their work, go to our website, 1261 Film Festival. That's the same handle across the social media aspect, and they can definitely follow. And we're encouraging Grenadians from teenagers all the way up to submit their work to us.
Great.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. We
Thank you
appreciate it.
so
We want to
much.
wish you well. Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Viewers, please stay with us. We'll be right back with our second guest.
Interested in STI screening for HIV, syphilis, herpes, chlamydia, or gonorrhea?
All of these tests, plus hundreds more, are available at Allied Laboratories.
Allied Laboratories welcomes you. You can find us here on Gladstone Road in Grenville, in the building next to Calico, on the second floor, adjacent to Dr. Isaac's office. Or you can find us here on Granance Main Road, adjacent to South Winds, opposite the entrance of Excel Plaza. Contact our Grenville branch at 410-3488 or 419-1588, or send us an email at alliedlabgrenville@gmail.com.
You can contact our Granance branch at 403-3488 or 404-3488, or send us an email at alliedlabstgeorge@gmail.com.
Fit for life and Allied Laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
Welcome back, viewers, to Community Forum. And our guest here is Dr. Terence Walters. Welcome, Dr. Walters. Thank you. Let me say this about our special guest here. He's, of course, the National Disaster Coordinator at the National Disaster Management Agency, NAGMA. Yeah, I want to get it right. You have served the government of Grenada, the people of Grenada, in several capacities, include 35 years. It spans drug prevention, education, disaster management, public health. You've completed, of course, a PhD in public policy and emergency management. You also, what am I seeing here? A Master's of Public Health, a Bachelor of Science in Management Studies. You are a disaster management practitioner.
That's right.
Yeah, and the list goes on.
Yes.
And let me say before I close this section that you're familiar with regional and international disaster management context, and we welcome. We're glad to see you, NAGMA. Look, the 2023 hurricane season according to NOAA, that's how it's called, put it as standard. In other words, they don't expect it to be up or down, more or less average. What does that mean? Should I fold my hands and relax? I mean, that's average, so that's okay.
First of all, good night, and,
Good night.
and thanks for inviting me to be here
Yes.
on this program to talk disaster management. The prediction is for the season to be, let's say, average, just a little below the normal thing. There's a specific number of storms that you anticipate each year, but whether the season is predicted to be way below average
Yeah.
or not, we need to prepare.
Yeah.
Because it only takes one storm. That's all it takes. Well, if you just go back to the weekend, right? We had a tropical wave, and
Yes.
you saw the impacts. So if we have just one tropical storm or hurricane, that can make the season busy. So some people think, well, if they predict a below average season, that we could, just let our guards down. That is totally false.
Yeah, because
Totally
in the
false.
prediction, they have said that we'll have 4 major storms coming through. Major here meaning hurricane
Yeah.
type and above.
Yeah.
But even though, Doc, one of the things probably we need to chime in on or focus on is intensity. Because we may have an average season, but the intensity of the systems coming through seem to be so much more higher than what we normally would have when years gone by. So, I mean, when we talk about our experience in Ivan was a classical intensity as well. So, I mean, the destruction that came. So, we may have average or below, but the intensity of the systems we see coming through is significant, isn't it?
Well, that is correct because, for example, in 2017, we had 2 Category 5 passing through and impacting states. So we can attribute that to the whole issue of climate change. And we have been attributing quite a number of things to climate change. And we don't see the impacts of climate change overnight, but it's over a period of time.
We've seen it
And
now with the
so-
heat wave.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
a lot hotter now.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, with climate change, we've seen the hazards. Well, in particular the storms.
Yeah.
They can be more frequent and more intense. So we have to be very mindful of that.
Yeah.
In terms of readiness, in terms of NADMA here now, so we're bringing it into local. So I have here, you have shelters, we have community committees that needs to get going from June to, they used to say June to October. June too soon, October all over. But I mean, those days kind of gone now. We're having things in May, late May, and
Thank you.
Yeah.
all into November.
Yeah.
Thank
So, but in terms of preparedness for the shelters, the community committees, and I want to particularly touch on one, which is security, which probably you could comment, and then I'll ask you about the security aspect.
All right, so I must say here that we focus on comprehensive disaster management. So previously, years ago, we focused basically on relief management. So something happened, you provide some relief supplies, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But that has since changed. The regional focus is comprehensive disaster management, and so too is the local focus. Because remember, we had CIDERA, and they changed to CIDEMA
Yes.
management,
Yeah.
okay? And we had NERO before, emergency relief.
Yes, yes,
We've changed,
yes.
since changed to NADMA, National Disaster
Management.
Okay, so it's the management of all of the hazards through all of the phases by all people.
Yeah.
So no longer it's just the police or the government or whoever is responsible, but we all have a part to play in the management of these hazards, how we prepare our families, our businesses, the community. So we all have a part to play. So that's comprehensive disaster
It's a different focus now.
Totally different focus, and we focus now on all of the hazards. Because remember, you have earthquakes, you have tsunami, you have both the natural and the man-made hazards that you have to be prepared for.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's getting that out of the way. It's comprehensive disaster management. But locally, we continue our preparedness process, and I want to say here that preparedness is continuous. It never stops. So some people think. There are people who think that with NADMA during the hurricane season we're busy, and outside of the hurricane season, well, we're not working, all right, or
Yeah.
we have nothing to do.
Yeah.
But that's not the case at all, because During the hurricane season, you're monitoring, you're providing information to the public, you're ensuring that you can respond if something is happening. Outside of the hurricane season, you continue to monitor all the other hazards, and you continue your training and your preparedness. And because remember, people come, people go, people move on, people migrate, and you have to replace. You have to continue training. You have to ensure that you have people there, and we work with all of the sectors. I remember NADMA, we work with police, health, infrastructure, you just name it. All of the sectors, education, all of the sectors across the country, we work with them. So we have to provide training, we have to ensure that people know what their roles are, how they function when there's an emergency.
So let me ask you about this. In Ivan, one of the weaknesses we saw in the recovery process, and after the hurricane had passed through and the disaster it left, we had an issue with security, police in particular, SSU, where it was felt, at least from where I sat in the private sector, some of us had to go and who had destruction guard our own premises, so to speak. You couldn't get security personnel, you couldn't get police and so on. So after coming out of Ivan, one of the thinking was that we should have a dedicated force or a platoon or two from the force that is taken care of, both from the family point of view, and they will be deployed for security to prevent the looting and all the deviant behavior that comes with it. How are we with that? Because to get a dedicated force, you have to prepare for the family, because you don't want them being distracted thinking their family house mash up and what's happening. How are we with that? Because this is a costly thing for us to manage that if we have a system coming through and we have destruction.
And what you're saying here is quite true in terms of ensuring that there's adequate security. From my understanding, the Royal Grenada Police Force has taken that into consideration seriously. The whole issue of security and securing your key installations. Because if you are able to secure your key installations during whatever event, whether it's a storm, an earthquake, whatever, you're able to secure those installations after the event, okay, then you are able to provide for your population. Because if you secure your supermarkets, then people are able to get food. But if they're looted out, then you have a problem on hand. So the Royal Grenada Police Force has a plan to ensure that these installations are secured. Now, you mentioned in terms of taking care of the family and all of that. Now, I can't say that it's a perfect plan, but it is a plan that will ensure, okay, that these officers are available.
Yeah, because, I mean, during Ivan and after Ivan, officers will tell you they're not coming on duty. They're going to take care of their home and their family to make sure they're safe and they're okay. And that's a natural human thing that you can't. A man will leave, work comes secondary and go, and you can't ask him to go and see after a stranger and his family in jeopardy.
But it's different now, because, I mean, we've had a lot of discussion about that, and we've made a lot of preparation.
It's like, what are the lessons learned from Ivan? I think that's a critical thing, And I agree with Chris, security was in fact a major issue. In fact, we had to get help from Trinidad, other regional countries, and why not? But Claire, NAGMA is a department under the Prime Minister's Ministry on National Security. You have a National Emergency Advisory Council that's functioning. Tell us a bit about the structure of NAGMA in terms of, do you have the adequate resources to adequately carry out the task? What is your level of preparedness, you would say, within NAGMA?
Yeah, I think we, in terms of preparedness, right, we continue to work with our stakeholders or volunteers to ensure that we're prepared to respond. Now, when we ask the question level, how do we measure that?
Level. From NAGMA's point of view.
Level.
Okay, let me put it another way. Let me ask you this way. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Grenada's preparedness for a national emergency? Let's say at the level of Ivan. Grenada's. Not NAGMA, Grenada's.
That's the thing. No, I wouldn't want to give a rating.
Yeah.
Right, because
but you think
I may overrate, I may underrate.
Yeah.
But I think we are a lot more prepared now than previously.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
I think probably last 10, 20 years, we are a lot more prepared now. In terms of structures, in terms of the way people respond, because if you look at what has been happening, whenever there's a threat, and we have a very good early warning system for hurricanes and storms. So whenever there's a threat, okay, you see the level of activity, the level of action, how people take it seriously, what people do. So I think we have come a very long way now, because remember with Hurricane Ivan, that generation before knew nothing about, because the last one we had was Janet.
Janet.
And,
50 years hence.
There we go, 50 years, right? So
generations.
So we've come a very long way, but I wouldn't want to say like, okay, 5 or 6.
No, but you
or
think
10.
we're reasonably prepared, lessons learned.
Yes.
What are the issues, Doc, facing the whole question of preparedness at the local level, in the village, communities? Most people are concerned about, when they talk about disaster, they're talking about the potential loss of their dwelling, their homes. Chris, you understand that fundamental, your home.
Yeah.
With the increasing, because lately we've heard of insurance companies increasing their rate of insurance, and a lot of people are finding it difficult to reinsure or to get insurance. It's no longer affordable. How does NAGMA seize this? Is there any intervention there proposed? Is this an issue for NAGMA in terms of insurance, whether it's crop insurance, whether it's property insurance generally, and its accessibility, affordability?
Well, risk transfer is always something that we need to look at.
Yeah.
And that the whole issue of insurance, if whether you have or you're able to get insurance for your property. For example, if you have a wooden house, or ply house, right, you won't get insurance.
Yeah.
So what we do is that we encourage people who are building to build according to standards, so at least you can get. And I must say, in the last 20 years, I think we have seen an improvement in our structures, so that if we have another hurricane like Ivan, I believe that we would sustain a lot less.
The slogan then was "Build Back Better." You think we did?
Better.
You think we did? The standard change in terms of, from an architectural point of view, is physical planning. What's the word?
Authority. I think you have a new authority.
Yes. Are they enforcing the building code, for example?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes. I can say yes, right? I can say yes, because remember, you still have to do your plan, submit it, and they have to approve and all of that. So I think there's some level of enforcement. However, again, it's not a perfect system. So there would be people who would kind of slip through in terms of doing the little buildings here and there.
I disagree that there is enforcement. I think there is compliance to do what they have to do, but whether they enforce what they do is another issue.
Okay.
Making sure the right things are done. Yes.
Maybe we need greater enforcement. But yes, I think.
Well, I would agree with you. I think structures now are much better than we saw before.
Yes.
In terms of response times, what is NADMA's response times when we come into, because you can have something happening and a disaster comes up. How do you measure, or is there a performance indicator in how quickly we should respond and in order to get people assistance as quickly as we can? How is that? Because when you look at the US, and for example, and they have floods in certain districts, or Miami go through a hurricane or a storm, their response time sometimes is disastrous, and they get a lot of blues for it.
Well, again, it all depends on the circumstances. Right? It all depends on the circumstances, what is happening. So, for example, if you have an earthquake, remember an earthquake is sudden, so then your response now, your system may just be overwhelmed. So then you'd request assistance from the region. We have SEDEMA, and our focal point is Trinidad and Tobago. All right. So it would depend on what is happening, how it impacts our system, and that would then depend on how we can respond.
And the response.
Yes.
Okay.
It will depend.
How is technology? I know you have a brand new spanking building in Monjalo, and you guys are fully in play. It used to be in the fort at one time. Now you're down to lower down Monjalo. How is that? How is the new headquarters? And in terms of the use of technology, cell phones, sat phones, communication systems, and all of that, how is that in terms of the level of preparedness from a NADMA's point of view?
I think we have we have improved significantly because, like you say, with the use, so mobile phones, because before the event, right, you can use your mobile phones, you have WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
If you send it to just one group, then everybody
Yeah.
has it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we have that available. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram. So we make use of all of those things, right? Websites and so. And then we've just had a brand new communication system launched last year, November. All right, that's with NTRC. So again, we were able to communicate across the island, and then you have the different entities: police, NADMA, Grenlec, Red Cross. Right, you have different entities being able to communicate with each other or among each other.
And that
Mutual
is
help and all of
independent
that.
of the
Yeah.
providers, Flow and Digicel.
Yes.
So you have
okay.
sat phone systems
There's,
set up.
there's sat phones. The agency has satellite phones, and we have other entities that have satellite phones. So if there is an event, because like after Ivan, we realized that most systems were down. Most, right? You had very little
That's right.
cell phone service,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
little,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
now I think if that happens, we will be better off. And I know CDMA is working, like last week, 2 weeks ago, they had a regional communications training. All right, tomorrow, which today is Wednesday, on Friday, we have a national communications training happening.
Yeah.
So
So
I think
training
we
is always a
continue.
big part of
Always.
this. Look, I mean, your role is a critical one. I mean, the National Disaster Coordinator. I mean, this is like, wow. What are the challenges you have? Are you getting all the resources that is required to adequately perform this function? But what are the challenges you see as you? I mean, because you've been in this position, what, 6 months now?
Since October.
Since October.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but recent, you know. So what are the challenges you see going forward? The resources, your regional, international coordination, and all of this. How is this working out?
Let me talk about the whole level of coordination. Because we have very good support among the entities in Grenada.
Yeah.
So whenever something happens, all the entities will come together. Private sector, public sector,
Okay.
the NGOs,
Okay.
and so forth. They come together.
Is that part of your structure?
That's the structure.
Okay.
So that's it. No, we do have one of the, because remember I served in NADMA from 2009 to 2017.
Familiar territory.
So familiar territory. One of the things while we were at the fort, one of the very first things I looked at when we got there, I said the agency needs to have a headquarters where you can function, because the fort was not, it didn't belong to NADMA. All right. So I said that, and I set out to ensure that we got a headquarters, which we achieved.
And you're there now in the new facilities.
In the new facility
Excellent.
now, okay? In the new facility now, right? I decided, hey, we need this, and we were able to
Yeah,
achieve
it's,
that.
it's properly built by
Yeah.
USAID.
USAID, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
you are
excellent.
Concrete
Yes,
roof,
yes.
you have
Yeah.
backup water,
US
backup
Southern
power.
Command.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Right,
US
and
Southern
it's
Command.
US Southern
Yeah, so
Command.
it's an
And
excellent building.
Yeah, it is a
Properly
facility that's
designed.
built for
For that
withstand the
purpose,
hurricane,
yeah.
for that purpose. One of the challenges we have is technical staff. Okay, now the legislation was passed recently in May, and the agency should be moving to statutory sometime soon. So that would give you a lot more flexibility in terms of who you.
So you'll have a board or the advisory council?
Yeah, there will be based on the legislation, there will be a board
A
and
board.
advisory council.
Okay,
And
good,
also a council, yeah?
Okay.
One of the things I want to point out here is the technical staff. Now, we hardly see people pursuing studies in disaster management.
Right, right.
Okay?
You did?
I did, yes. Okay, I did.
It's not a very sexy thing for young people.
Probably it's not a very sexy thing for young people, but it's a very critical area. It is an area where we need a lot more people. So I want to encourage young people to look closely at that area, because with climate
Just to cut you,
change,
does TAMCC offer any offshoot to get into disaster management at their curriculum that you could encourage young people from since then to get excited and see what's is that happening?
and that's an area that we can look into, right?
Right.
To partner with TAMCC. I know we from time to time we do
Yeah.
sessions, lectures, and so with the various entities, with secondary schools, primary schools, TAMCC, SGU. Okay, so we do that. But I think we need to make a greater push to get people to become
Professionally qualified.
yes, professionally qualified in that area. So that's one of the challenges. And then volunteer management. Because we depend on our volunteers across the country to assist.
Because you have the structures in the communities,
in the
or the
communities,
parishes.
all right?
Yes.
So they are eyes and ears on the ground.
Well, volunteerism is a thing that we're quickly losing, in our country as a whole. Everybody wants to be paid.
Yeah.
I mean, in a disaster, you see a different side of the human being coming out. It's more about helping each other than, making sure they get something out of it personally. So, but that I suspect as a challenge, but what is the plan to encourage more volunteerism?
Well, we've just launched a volunteer management project, right? So we're implementing that project. And I think by the end of the year, early next year, we'll have a policy that will guide how we engage. Okay, but I just want to make this point here. We've had district elections recently, and after the district elections, there was one district that really stood out. And while we're hearing volunteerism is dead or dying, okay, I'm seeing some things happening in St. John. And if I may just list, right?
That's good.
I'm seeing some things happening in St. John that I am really happy about, right? In terms of, and these are volunteers we're talking about, right? So over the weekend, they had a team from the local committee going around to every site where something was happening to ensure that they gather the information.
Excellent.
And, so I think the volunteerism is not dead.
So we recognize St. John's.
I'm
last week.
recognizing
Probably what we
St.
need to do is take whatever St. John's is doing
Yes.
and spread it to the rest of the country, because
Yes.
they obviously have something that is something to treasure, so
That's
we need to
right.
probably take it and see how we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
expand it and build on it.
When I saw that, I said, okay, so this can be a model for the other districts, and
Excellent.
how we go forward. So
Yeah,
there are some good things happening with disaster management in Grenada. But again, there are strengths, there are weaknesses, all right? But I think we can progress and do a lot in disaster management.
I mean, something that concerns me a lot. I know now that issues of forecasting, the technology that's involved there, your coordination with regional and international institutions like NOAA and others who provide data and information, with the use now of everyone now has a cell phone with an app and that type of thing. But from your experience, Dr. Walters, if you look at the weekend, did people take this seriously? Was it expected? I mean, was people prepared for this type of weather? Is it working? Is the coordination and the information gathering, and is it working?
Let me ask it another way.
Yeah.
You get a lot of blows for response times.
But over the weekend,
Yes.
okay, over the weekend,
Yeah.
I must say that people got the information.
Yeah.
Now we sent out this information from beginning Friday.
Yeah.
It's the tropical
Yeah.
week.
Saw it.
And we got a bulletin from the Met Office
Yeah.
just around 9:00,
Yeah.
which we sent out at 9:30.
Yes.
Okay, we shared it by WhatsApp and we
Yeah,
asked people
yeah.
to share it.
Yeah.
Okay, share it with others and
Sorry.
so.
And it
so
circulates.
it
well.
circulates,
Yeah.
right? Because once you use WhatsApp,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
send it out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I say you have the cell
Yeah.
phone that
Yeah.
you can use before the event.
Yeah.
So I think we are working on enhancing, improving, okay, our forecasting and the way we share the
Right.
information and how people can receive the information.
Because one
and
of
so
the things is, of course, the Met Office puts out a bulletin, but it's kind of technical. It's not.
So- So that's where we
if,
come in.
Yeah, that's where you come.
That's
in.
where we come
exactly.
in. So they give the
Yeah,
bulletin, so they would give you the tropical weather.
Exactly,
outlook.
yes.
And when there's a bulletin, something
Yeah.
is happening, there's some severe weather,
Yeah.
they send it directly to us.
Yeah.
And we now send it to the public. So what
Okay.
we do, we take it, we look at the language in there.
You break it down.
Break it down.
Excellent.
And we send it out.
Excellent.
Okay, so that people can better understand.
Yeah,
Because yes, the Met Office, they use the technical language.
Yeah, and that's their work.
And
That's what they're
they do.
trained to do.
You understand?
Yes,
But,
yes,
so we understand the ordinary
Yeah.
person would need,
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to break it down a bit.
Yeah.
So let me ask a futuristic question here now. Not so much far in the future. Based on what we see happening with climate change, I'm not sure if that falls under your umbrella, and the severity of weather, whether it's temperature rise and sea level rises, bleaching of coral, all the multitude of things that's happening. How is NADMA positioned to deal with that? For example, a major aspect of this temperature rise is its effect on agriculture and what could happen to the food chain and our security with food and just normal vegetables and fruits and so on, and the encouragement of pests and all of that. How is NADMA, or is NADMA positioned to facilitate that kind of adjustment in weather patterns we're going to see going forward?
So I'm happy you asked that, because remember, climate change, the climate change experts are monitoring, doing research, saying what is happening, what will happen.
Yeah.
When it happens, NADMA is the one that
Yeah.
has to respond.
Yeah.
Okay? But last week I went to a meeting in Trinidad, held by the UN and CDMA regional bodies and
Yeah.
so. And we're looking at ways to bring climate change and disaster management closer together, because these two entities need to work together to ensure that we can address the issues of climate change. So in Grenada, we do have the Ministry for Climate Resilience,
Yeah.
we do have NADMA, but now it's going to be a regional approach to ensure that climate change and disaster management work closer together, so that we can be, as disaster management, can be more prepared for the issues that
Yeah.
will come
Yeah.
from climate change.
I'm not.
So there's that happening.
It's important.
So, I mean, my friend here is agriculturist, have been for years. Is he going to invest in shade houses for his fruit trees? And how expensive is that going to be? Is this kind of future looking,
Yeah.
so that you
Yeah.
could protect his farm
Yeah.
and others? So the food, we don't have threats with food. Same with sea level rises. How is it
Exactly.
going to contaminate
Yeah.
our water systems, especially our groundwater?
Yeah.
And how that is going to affect.
Dr. Alders, I'm worried. You know why I'm worried? I'm not panicking. I'm worried,
You're worried.
with and let me tell you why I'm worried. The effect on hurricanes due to climate change. The oceans are getting warm. We know that the oceans absorbs 90% of the heat. So, and that is a contributory factor to major hurricanes, or the intensity of hurricanes,
We can't know about that. What are we going to do?
Well,
We have to try and adjust for it.
natural hazards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing we can do. So you're right. You're right, Chris.
It's a dreadful
But-
thought. I mean, and
but
we mentioned before you came earlier on about the global warming situation. What's happening in Europe, in America, in Australia? The forests are burning. I mean, this
10
is
years we may not be around, but
No,
there may be a law
I'm
passed that
worried.
the only roof you could build is a concrete roof
yeah,
to deal with some of the intensities that we're going to see, because certainly sheeting and how we build for sheeting could only take up to a certain category in terms of wind force and
Yeah.
shear.
yeah.
So we may have to come to a thing and say, okay, the new law now is any new structure has to be concrete roof. And
We're
that
not
comes with
saying
its
that's the law,
own,
right?
and we just say, and that comes with its own advantages and disadvantages.
But Dr. Olson, we come into the close of the program. But what concerns you? Here's an opportunity. But what do you say to? I mean, given your position as a national coordinator, disaster coordinator, at this moment, what is your message to the population?
All right. So we need enhanced governance. So
Yeah.
we've started with the law, and we're going to develop some other plans and policies and so.
Yeah.
So we do need enhanced governance, and we do need to ensure that climate change and disaster management are married, so that we can address some of these issues going forward. But
educate.
yes, so there needs to be a lot more public education information, and I'm encouraging the population to pay attention to what is happening. Pay attention to the information on the hazards. We try at NADMA to provide a lot of information, public education,
Yeah.
doing it with groups and schools, churches, and all of that. But
And I just wanted to reinforce, stick that point in. Pay attention to authentic sources of information.
that's right. That's right. That's at the end of we always ask people to pay attention to the authentic sources. Yes, but to encourage the population, each individual has a part to play in this whole issue of disaster management. So it's not just the government or NADMA or the police or health or every individual, because if we start with individuals, then households, it can spread to the households. People develop
Plan
their
for it
family
at home.
plans, and so
Yeah.
that's right, And if you have better prepared families, individuals, families, then you have better prepared communities. and then that would spread out to the districts, the parishes,
Well, let me-
and by
I
extension,
want to
have
make a
better
plug for the
prepared
private sector.
country.
Yeah, yeah.
The private sector has been one of the bodies that responded very well after Ivan. Why? Because we have exhaustive plans. So in my company, for example, when we started May, June, everything is put into place, have these committees up and ready. We
Yeah.
make sure we have the resources that we need, and it's a constant.
Yeah.
So the response time for the private sector after Ivan was really good. We were back up
Yeah.
in weeks.
Yeah, I must say the private sector,
Yeah.
I'm seeing some very good signs from the private sector. But I want to just make this point. I wish we could get to the point where we start our preparedness from January. Now, we understand we have to focus on the hurricane season, which begins in June. But if we're preparing for all of the hazards,
Yeah,
it has to be a year-round thing.
it is.
So I am proposing that we move to present the list of shelters from January,
Yes.
so that people know this is a list of shelters not just for the hurricanes, but for anything else
Any
that can happen.
disaster.
Yeah, flash flood, tsunami,
There we go.
anything,
Anything, and it can happen anytime.
anytime.
Okay, so we have to make some changes, mindset. Let people understand it's not just hurricane season, but it's throughout the year.
This is such a critical work, Dr. Walters. I want to thank you for appearing on Community Forum, and I hope you'll come back. Yes.
Feel free, feel free. I'm available all the time.
Thank you.
Hard to find, but we continue.
Viewers, thank you very much. On behalf of Chris and myself, we'll see you next week. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Concerned about your general